So today we got a half a pig here. What we're gonna do is we're gonna show you how we break this down, process it from start to finish off the hook. So what I'll do is I'll show you the primals, all the primal cuts here. After I get done showing you that, I'll take the carcass, I'll throw it up on the block and we'll break it down from there. All right, so right here, top area, this is your leg ham area. Right here on the side, this is your loin. Next to your loin here, you got your rib and your belly. And then down here, you got your shoulder, this area. So what we're gonna do, I'll take this, throw it on the block, we'll break it down into primals. There we go. All right, so we got the carcass here on the table. What we're gonna do is break it down to primals like I was telling you earlier. From an inside perspective, I'm gonna show you again, we got your shoulder right here. This is your loin. You got your rib and your belly in this area right here. And then you got your leg or your ham right here on the back side. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna clean this carcass up, break it down into primals. We'll start here with the leaf lard. We're just gonna pull this out, save that for the customer. We'll cut that up and bag it. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna clean everything on this carcass that has dark spots, dark areas from the aging process. We don't want to keep any of that on there. It's not good for any of your sausage or to be on any of your cuts. Take this meat off. All this dark area right here. We're going to trim this up. See the difference there in the color. Clean all that up. This right here, these are your jowls or cheek meat. A lot of people like to save that. They'll smoke it, slice it into thin, like bacon-like. Keep that. Customer wants it, we'll give it to them. You can see all the gristle, all that stuff you don't want in any of your sausage or anything like that. So we're gonna clean that up. All this here, no good for your sausage. Take all that off. All right, this is your loin area here. You got your tenderloin right here. It's covered up with a little bit of fat. What you want to do is just take a little bit of this fat off. Clean up your tenderloin. Try not to cut into that tenderloin. Take all this fat here off your rib, spare rib. I'm going to separate this little flap here from your spare rib off of your ham. Clean all this dark stuff off your loin. A little bit of this fat here off your loin. So now we're gonna knock the ham off of your loin and off of your belly and your spare rib. So what you wanna do is you have your H-bone right here. You wanna get about 2 fingers length into the loin from there. Take your handsaw, cut through it there, all the way through, straight as possible. Get your ham knocked off from your loin, your spare rib and your belly. And then from here we got your shoulder connected to your loin, your spare rib and your belly. And what you want to do is count these ribs here. There's one rib kind of hidden down in here, and you want to count 3 ribs up. 1, 2, 3, and make your cut between the 3rd and the 4th rib. Again, you want to try to keep this hacksaw straight as possible, all the way through. There you got your shoulder separated from your loin, spare rib, and your belly. So here now I got my loin, I got my rib and my belly. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna separate both of these. And what you wanna do is you wanna be about 2 finger length away from the loin here when you separate it with the saw. And you're gonna kind of follow that loin. It's got a kind of a round shape here. So what you wanna do, 2 finger length, follow that loin all the way down. Be careful not to get here. on your tenderloin. Separate all the way up through here. You got your spare rib, and you got your pork belly right here. We'll show you how to separate that here in a minute. So here with this loin, what I want to do is I want to chime this bone a little bit, kind of round it off, makes your pork chops look a little bit better. So I'm going to flip this on its side, chime a little bit of that off there, rounded. Now you got your loin there ready to trim up, get some pork chops out of it, get more into depth on that. All right, so to give you a little better idea of what we did here, it's all separated into primals. You got your shoulder here, you got your loin here, your spare ribs with your fresh pork belly, and then you got your leg or your ham here on the back side. What I'm gonna do first is I'm gonna trim this loin up, put all this stuff to the side for now. I'm gonna work here on his loin, trim it up, get it ready to go back on the saw and get some cuts out of it. Okay, I'm gonna start off trimming some more of this dark stuff off here. A little bit of fat. Dark area here. Flip it over to the fat side where it's up. Got it flipped over, fat side up. What I'm gonna do, I'm gonna trim a lot of this fat off. Here on the end cuts of your pork chops, I'm gonna trim those all the way down to the meat, because what we're gonna do with those is we're gonna get some country style ribs out of them. So I'll start here. I'll go in about 3.5 inches or so on each side. Trim this fat down to the meat. And then here in the center is where we're going to get our pork chops at. So I'm going to leave a small layer of fat here in the center for our pork chops. Don't want to go too deep. Just enough to where we have a good layer of fat on all of our pork chops. Flip this over to the other end. Again, I'm going to get some country styles out of here, so you'll see me trim it down to the meat. Close as we can without taking too much meat off. See me flipping this over a lot, different angles. You always want to get the best angle when you're trimming these loins. Just make sure you're taking off the right amount of fat and not digging too deep into your loin. Got that loin trimmed up here. See, a little bit of meat showing here where we get our country styles out of each end for the end chops of the loin. And then right here in the center, got a little layer of fat. That's where we're gonna get all of our main pork chops out of.
Okay, so here I have your pork shoulder. And what I'm gonna be doing today is I'm gonna be separating the neck bone from the shoulder. And I'm gonna be flipping it over and I'm gonna be cleaning it up and squaring it up, getting it ready to cut your pork roast or your pork steaks and your shoulder roast and stuff like that. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go around right here and I'm gonna hug this bone. And I'm gonna hug this bone all the way around. Make sure I'm not going too deep into the meat. I'm going up like this, just hugging that bone, coming all the way out. And then I'm gonna flip it over like this. So you can see. And I'm just gonna keep hugging this bone all the way down. You don't wanna get too deep because you can mess your shoulder roast, your butt roast up. And I'm just gonna keep hugging this bone. We'll go right here on this side. Hugging it. So here we got your butt roast right here, and right here we got your shoulder roast, and then your ham hock, and these are your neck bones. So I'm gonna put these to the side right here, so we can cut them later and get them ready for the customer. So here, I'm just gonna cut all this dark stuff off right here. I'm gonna cut this off right here, square it up. Take this chunk of fat, get this meat off or sausage. Get all this dark stuff off right here, it's not good for your sausage. Throw this over here in this lugger. I'm gonna come right here and I'm gonna cut and I'm gonna square this up right here too as well. Get all this nasty aging off. Ready for sausage. Then I'm gonna take this flap right here and I'm gonna cut this off right here. Get this looking nice and neat. Again, cutting all the good meat. Get ready for sausage, making sure there's no glands or anything like that in there. And then what I'm gonna do is we got a little gland right here, so I'm gonna cut it at a V. I'm gonna pull this out. Make that look nice and neat for you. Now I'm gonna flip this over. I'm just gonna take all this fat off for you. Not too much fat, just enough to make it look nice and clean. Come right here, start the hock. I'm gonna clean that up for you. Get rid of all this dirty stuff. It's ready for sausage. And now I got your pork shoulder all cleaned up. Now it's ready to head over to the saw and begin cutting. So here we have your fresh pork leg. And they want these smoked, so I'm gonna go ahead and just trim this up for you and show you how we get that processed and tagged and getting ready to go in the smoker. So I'm just cutting this bone off right here. Getting all this meat off the fat for sausage. Trimming all this dirty, dark stuff off from the aging process. Clean this bone right here. And again, you want to try not to cut too deep into the meat. It's nice and rounded. Turn it over. All this fat, dirty fat off. You don't want to take too much fat off of there because you want to leave some on there so you got a nice juicy ham when it's done smoking. Now that I got this all cleaned up for you, I'm gonna go ahead and put this to the side so we can get a tag on it and weigh it. Okay, so here what I have for you is your spare rib, your pork spare rib, and it's right now it's connected to your pork belly. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna separate that for you. So yet again, you want to hug these bones right here. This is your rib. And I'm just going to hug these bones straight down. Come up. Right it again. Yet again, you don't want to go too deep into this meat right here because this is your bacon. These are your spare ribs right here, so I'm just going to keep riding this bone. Find that seam. Ride that seam. And just keep going down. see how it wants to just come peel off? That's what you want right there. And you just pull it and you just keep hitting it with your knife so it comes off nice and smooth. This is your pork spare rib right here. So what I'm gonna do right here is I'm gonna just cut this little tip off, not too much. Clean some of this fat off for you. Get some of this off. Get all this good meat. Cut it off. Throw it in this lugger for sausage. Sausage for you. That's your pork spare rib. Ready to go on the barbecue. Throw this right here, put that to the side. Right here you got your fresh pork belly. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna clean this up for you and get ready to go in the smoker, get cured and go in the smoker for bacon. So I'm just gonna cut this tail off right here, square it up. Take this and just get whatever good meat I can off of this for sausage. And again, you wanna look around. See that? You don't want that right there. That's a gland. You're gonna cut that off and throw that away. Any bad fat you want to cut off, throw away. Go ahead and throw that in there for your sausage. So there's no meat on here. They want their fat, so I'm gonna throw it with their fat. That's good for sausage. Flip this over. Cut this little tip of fat off so it's nice and flat and square. Flip this over one more time. And cut right here. Right here is this is your fresh pork belly right here. We're gonna get that tagged and cured and ready to go in the smoker.
We got the loin here up on the saw. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna set this guide here to about 1.25 inches. And what I'm gonna start off with is taking these end cut chops right here that I took all the fat off of, and I'm gonna make them into country style ribs. So like I said, got this guide set to 1.25 inches. I'm gonna square this loin up. Square that loin up. I'm gonna take 2 cuts off of each end of the loin. Flip it around. Square that up. Get my 2 cuts. All right, what I'm gonna do from here, I got my end cut pork chops, about 1.25 inches. I'm gonna clean up this bone, square it up on each side, get some country style out of it. All right, so I got these squared up. I'm gonna stack them on top of each other, just like this. Get behind our blade here. I'm just gonna split them right down the middle. Flip them over. There you go, you got 4 nice country style ribs out of the end cuts on your loin. Now that we got those, I'm gonna take my the rest of my loin that I had, set this to 3/4 inch, cut us some bone-in pork chops. All right. So you want to make sure that you don't have too big of a tail here on your loin. If it ever is too long, we're just gonna chime a little bit of that off. Square this loin up. Cut our chops. There you got it, 3/4 inch pork chops. All right, so what we like to do, just a little something extra, just to make the meat look better when it's in the package. When you cut on the saw, you get a lot of bone dust. You can see it's like this pink colored bone dust from the saw blade. And what we do is we get our meat scraper, TJ's got it here, and we scrape the meat, get all that bone dust off. That way it looks a lot better, more presentable in the package. So that's just something extra that we like to do for our customers. We really like to take pride in our presentation. So that's one thing that we do, make sure that we take care of our customers. Just makes it look nice and clean. All right, so we got our spare rib here. What we're gonna do with this, we're actually gonna cut it in half to where we get our St. Louis style rib and a smaller spare rib. So what I'm gonna start off doing is I'm gonna chime this bone off here. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna flip over to these bones here, and I'm just gonna slightly chime them just to take away that sharp edge. That way when we package it, none of the sharp bones pierce our packaging, because what we do here is we vacuum seal. So we don't want that package to be broken or punctured. That way it stays nice and sealed for the customer. So what I'm gonna do first, chime this bone, flip it around, barely chime these sharp edges here. That way we got a nice smooth texture, no sharp bones poking out. And from here, I'm just gonna partially crack this rib to make it easy for our customer. When they cut their spare ribs, they can get through it pretty easy. They're not fighting any thick bone. And from here, I'm gonna split this down the middle. That gives us here our smaller spare rib. And then right here, our St. Louis style rib. Cut that in half. St. Louis style rib, we'll wipe those up, get rid of that bone dust. Ready for packaging. What I got next here is a pork neck bone. And what I'm gonna do with this, so I'm gonna get rid of these small bones right here that don't have a lot of meat on them. Chime it up, make it nice and neat to where you just have this center neck part. And I'll slice it up into like maybe inch thick, and we'll package them up. Kind of follow that center cut of the neck. Make sure there's no sharp edges. Chime it up if there is. And we're just gonna slice the neck all the way down into 1-inch slices. There you got your pork neck bones. Now from here, we're gonna work on our shoulder. So on your shoulder here, you got two parts. You can see this blade bone here, right down the middle. On this blade bone side, it's gonna be your butt roast. Over here on this side, it's gonna be your shoulder roast. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna knock that butt off from the shoulder, and I'm gonna knock the hock off from the shoulder as well. And we're gonna do a couple pork steaks and a butt roast, and then also a shoulder roast in half. Find this shoulder blade. That first seam that's next to the shoulder blade, that's where you wanna take your butt off from your shoulder. Ensure that that bone is nice and small. If that bone's big, then you knocked it off wrong. Knock that shoulder off from the hock. That's your hock right there. What we're gonna do is we're gonna pump and cure that just like we do our hams and bacons. We'll net it, throw it in the smoker. Shoulder roast, we're just gonna go right down the middle with this. Split that in half. Give you two good looking shoulder roasts right there. And we got our butt roast. What we're gonna do with this is we're gonna make some pork steaks out of this. We're gonna do them a 3/4 of an inch. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna square this up. Then from there, I'm gonna go about halfway down the butt with shoulders or with pork steaks, and then the rest will be the butt roast. Get about 5 steaks out of that. Chine this bone. I don't want no sharp bones there, so I'll chine that up. There you got your butt roast. A couple sharp bones here on these pork steaks, we'll chine those up. There you got 3/4 inch pork steaks. I'm gonna scrape those up, get all the bone dust off, get them ready to package. Okay, so here we got final product. Everything laid out here on the table for you. All the cuts that you're gonna get out of a half of a pig. I'll start over here on my right, here with your shoulder roast. We got your pork steaks, your butt roast, neck bones, 2 sets of 4 country style ribs, all your pork chops, 3/4 inch, St. Louis style ribs, you got your spare ribs. Right here is all the smoking, the stuff we're gonna pump here and put in the smokers. You got your fresh leg, you got your hocks, you got your fresh pork belly, and our customer here wanted all of their fat from the pig. What they're gonna do with this, probably render it down, use it for cooking, baking, things of that sort. And then all the way over here on my left is all your trim, maybe about 8 pounds or so of fresh ground pork sausage. And that's pretty much it. Those are all your basic cuts out of a half a pig.